On the verge of breaking their representation streak of the PCS, PSG finally strike back and give us a dominating win over Beyond Gaming. Welcome back to the PCS, and welcome to our sponsors in CTBC Bank, Taiwan's #1 top financial institution, and China Airlines coming into the fray as well. Thank you very much for making the PCS possible, and thank you, Nightstar, for giving us such a wonderful day of casting in games right here. We are heading on to the 4th game, and to no one's surprise, Beyond Gaming has selected the blue side.
Now they'll go back over to the blue side. We'll likely see a lot of priority once more onto the mid lane picks, whether it is going to be the Silas left available or if it's going to be the Ahri. Ends up having a lot of attention thrown onto her. I'm interested to see how the mid lane actually develops in this particular game, but for the most part, the biggest change that did happen from game 2 to game 3 was Hanabi being offered up an opportunity to have a big scaling top laner. So he goes for the gangplank, and it really just hard carries some of these later team fights with how that ultimate interacted with the composition of the side of BYG.
We are definitely seeing PSG handle the Aatrox incredibly well. If they get the Poppy versus Wukong matchup, they just board up the top side. The Aatrox has been, honestly, kind of invisible after Likai popping off in game 1. He's been taking 2 bans every single game afterwards here in the Fiora and the Camille. So, you know, I'm wondering if there seems to be such marked drop-offs in some of these players for both Likai, for Minji, and for Gori at the same time too. So, you know, kind of an interesting prediction, but who gets what is the big question here. There are massive deciding factors going into this one. PSG going to be sticking towards Lucian. I assume that the Kalista is going to follow as well. While Beyond Gaming, remember their blue side bans have been the Azir, Yumi, and Poppy in the previous games.
Will stay the same. They go ahead, ban away the Poppy for PSG. Ahri, Silas. Silas will be the one taken off. He's already available, and that may just be the lock-in. Will indeed get locked in for PSG. Do they pick up the Talia themselves here?
There's a number of options for Gori, actually. You know, the LeBlanc could work as well. I think he played that once in the regular season. A lot of options to keep Ahri down. And we are going to see a shift now. PSG going to go for the long-range advantage here. I think this suits them a little bit better than Rundown. And as I say that, never mind, I'm terribly sorry. It's going to be Rundown once more. In goes the Sivir. We'll see if the Wukong follows here. That has been the red side first 2 picks this entire series.
It's been 4 games of that. But currently, it's the Sejuani hovered, and it does get locked in. Of course, double flex could go into Hanabi's hands or to Buri. But here, BYG, it does mean that they will be able to get the Wukong for themselves. And it looks like they will go for the Zeri rather than try and go for a blind pick Fiora.
That's what you were calling for, you know, get that Fiora in. PSG has no answers, but it looks like they're pretty happy to waste away 2 bans against PSG in this game here. PSG, they are, I'm not sure I like this because they are hurling towards a rundown comp once again. Gori knows what's going to happen to him. His champion pool is going to get eviscerated. I wonder what he's going to play. You know, last time we saw the bans coming through, the LeBlanc was banned out by Beyond Gaming. I definitely think they understand that's still there. I'm not sure if they would care about the Galio this time around. So we'll find out.
Honestly, this feels like they're just going to play Renekton Sejuani mid jungle.
Oh, that's very possible.
try and snowball off of the kill pressure offered by Sejuani jungle in tandem with the auto reset power coming in from a Renekton. Being able to chain stun into that mid lane definitely could be the possibility. Also allows this Renekton to be more influential, because we saw Hanabi get leads up top lane. Didn't matter because he's a Renekton stuck in the top lane, wasn't able to shift that extra power elsewhere. And it, of course, double ban onto Gory's champion pool. Now, could he go for a Victor? Yes, he could, and Victor wouldn't be that bad an option.
Feels kind of weird.
Yeah.
I almost feel like
Victor...
Galio allows you to win situations you couldn't win, and Swain is definitely one of those picks as well.
Swain is actually a really strong pick because of how BYG in the mid game, the Zeri's not going to have that much damage to be able to punch through the Swain, and certainly could have tons of value along with sort of the bash combination of Sejuani and Renekton. Is that's not going to come through. That is also not going to come through.
That old Aatrox
does come through, and I'm sad.
Yeah, the Aatrox hasn't been all that impressive from Lee Kai, if we're being completely honest, and it isn't a scale factor either. It's a champion that falls off when we come into the late game.
Perhaps this game we'll see him go for the Gore Drinker build, because I think it has a ton of value in this particular game. Whereas in the previous games, you could sort of understand why he didn't go all the way into that build. And BYG, they round out the composition with the Nautilus. A lot of pick potential, but not a lot of targets that you do want to go and pick off.
Yeah, this is an interesting selection here, because it looks like more for skirmishes from Beyond Gaming rather than team fights. In team fights, look at that front line from PSG. Yeah, you're just not touching the center.
Oh my.
Oh boy. Wow, that is a clenched fist on the side of PSG. That is so much power in the front line, in the short range, that can absolutely just blow through your team. For Beyond Gaming, they have the Zeri, but they don't really have the late game, which is kind of concerning.
Yeah, they don't have an enchanter to really augment Zeri's takeover potential as the game progresses, and their solo laners are also going to lose out on damage later on in the game too. So even though a Renekton will drop off in power, the fact that you have Sejuani Braum in tandem with the Renekton actually still maintains a lot of Renekton's power as the game progresses, because of his ability to just set these stun chains off with the Sejuani and with the Braum.
I agree with you. I think we're going to Silver Scrapes after this draft coming out here. A couple big things is I just don't see how they kill the Swain. Everyone's going to be in melee range surrounding him, and then he's going to get Braum extra resistances just thrown on top of him and be completely unkillable. So, it seems like a very difficult to execute Beyond Gaming composition. They are no strangers to high ceiling compositions, but man, even for Beyond, this one looks, it's just so hard.
Yeah, and the job will be incredibly difficult for Wako, as he's going to have to accept most of the damage burden in this game as the game progresses, because his support is the Nautilus. He won't have the extra power coming in from something like a Yuumi or a Lulu to help put him over the top, right? Because we've seen in some of these situations when you have these enchanters, it's very easy for the Zeri to just get these buffs late game and sort of 2v5 these situations.
Taking a look at the runes, we are going to get the Conqueror in the top lane, so most likely the Gore Drinker that you've been talking about. Also, neither of the top lane going for the bone plating anymore, just getting a little bit more long-term revive potential rather than the all-in prevention. We're going to be taking a look at the level 1s, pretty mild level 1s across the board. There is great skirmishing potentials from both of these squads here, but I really like the Braum here. The Braum is Oh, it's so powerful against what Beyond Gaming have
Mhm.
in store.
Yep.
There's so little range on Beyond Gaming, and
Yep.
makes Braum that much more powerful. Is going to have to zip line away from it, but they do
Oh,
find the early ward.
that's actually pretty well done coming in from BYG. Of course,
Mm.
for a Zeri, you can very easily delete these words as long as you see them spawn in your face because you Q auto into a Q. So, well executed there. Denies a little bit of vision, gets 10 extra gold into the hands of Waffle.
Yeah.
And yeah, just really well crafted composition from PSG. You could even say that all across the board in all these games, right? Even that game number 1 had a pretty cohesive theme.
Mm.
Unfortunately, the theme didn't really line up with PSG's team identity.
Yep.
So slight mismatch in that regard. But as far as drafting goes, it does feel like it's been 4 very cohesive compositions, and this time around they are going to come out with yet another draft advantage in games 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to super late game, in my eyes, for Beyond Gaming. Like, you need Wako full items to kind of punch through these front lines, and to be fair, Renekton and Swain, they do kind of fall off in the super late game, but that's gonna be a while. And the way Beyond Gaming have won, they really had to stay quite close in the early game. Not exactly win, but not be behind by like 14,000 gold.
Don't.
So.
Yeah, as long as they don't get dunked, I think it gives them an opportunity to take over the game with their playmaking, as we've seen already. Even as long as PSG aren't super far ahead, they do lack a bit of momentum when it comes to forcing a play, and that is where BYG does still have an advantage. For the first time, I believe, in this series, we are going to have Scuttle Crabs exchanged without one of these bot lanes stealing them.
Mm. And we do have Husha now looking for an opportunity to go onto the Swain. He's going to pop his clone across the board, and they will ping him out here. So Wukong going back to defend his own jungle. Let's see if he catches... Oh no, Buri just gets out in time here, and Gory has been making... Gory has been making Minji pay quite a bit after that one, but neither of them are healthy enough to really stay here anymore. Should be expecting the backs coming out.
Yeah, nice little charm at the end to make that trade even for Minji and force Gory away from lane. And it will be them now exchanging teleports. So not a ton happening, but a small little trade there does make a slight difference. And of course, Lee Kai now onto his 3rd game of Aatrox. Will we see an improvement? Certainly a big question.
Early game still incredibly rough for him as he's down 8 CS playing underneath his own tower. In the meantime, we do have Wukong showing on the map, so there's absolutely no regard for laning mishaps on the side of PSG. They're willing to push up very, very far afterwards, and they're even pinging the Drake onto this one. PSG off to a great start, up 300 gold just from the laning phase. Gory chunking out Minji again. And we have the objectives here. This time a good Infernal to start off.
Oh, early Inferno Dragon being started out by PSG. This is a big change in their game plan, in their approach. Being the first ones towards that dragon. Minji takes yet another big chunk of damage. Ori seems to just have Minji's number so far in the Ori Swain matchup, which is great news at the start. What I will say about Lee Kai on this Aatrox this time around, he can potentially find big value because one of the big things you want to play against when you are in Aatrox is a composition that's running towards you, and a Sivir comp is exactly that. So there may potentially be a massive pop-off moment coming in from this Gore Drinker Aatrox that's, low-range targets coming in from PSG as well, right?
Yeah, that's true. If he gets fed enough, he could stay there and he could get... I think 3-man Gore Drinkers is definitely part of the course in this situation.
Yep.
So he's going to get a lot of HP back. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, I do want to point out that how rough this laning phase has been for Minji. He was down about 12 CS just to start it off at 6 minutes. Got quite an impressive lead coming in from Corey here. He's going to reestablish most of this. Oh, actually, no. Later teleport means that Minji's going to get closer, 6 CS down only. And we are heading into Herald territory where, if I'm looking across the board here, it should still be very much in favor of PSG. Just not enough damage without any items here for Beyond Gaming to really threaten anything.
And strong wombo potential from Hanabi and Gori, right? When they pop their ultimates, it's so much extra effective tank stats for those two champions that it will be very difficult for the side of BYG to punch through those targets. And we are going to get Mountain on the table for our second dragon, which is also going to be a very important dragon to keep track of, as Unified taking a lot of extra damage.
Ooh, Ignite goes down by Kino, and overall it does look like PSG come out slightly favored in that trade. Now Husha, see if he walks through the scuttle or does something cheeky. Oh, he's going to clone over, but the pings go down. They know that he's here.
Bury.
He has level 6. It's going to be fine. Gori, in the meantime, takes a bad trade in front of Minji, but still fine afterwards, and actually comes out ahead in terms of the pots there.
2 additional potions to his name, so he's fine with taking 1 poor trade, as he's been able to find multiple positive trades.
Wako!
Okay, they're actually not going to try and force the issue, so Wako does have his back stopped, but won't get punished for it.
Herald's up already, so PSG do have a chance for an early start towards the Herald if they so choose to, and it looks like Wako's going to stay around to make sure that Unified is kept into position here.
For PSG, I think they'll really focus their attention around this next dragon rather than the Herald. So there's a small timing window where they can rotate over for Herald, force the Herald play, and then still make it in time for the dragon. And that does seem to be what PSG are looking for.
PSG actually moving all members towards the Herald's fight, while on the other hand, Zeri is going to show shortly into the bottom lane. Looks like Beyond Gaming trying to get a pick onto Nabi, but he's a big proc. That's not going to be an easy task to do, and Beyond Gaming, they know they don't have the early fighting power, so actually just going to give this one up. Minji taking a bit of damage, but PSG not going to commit to this one. And for Beyond Gaming, it's all about getting that Zeri fed at this point. They're going to give up hope on the Herald, let it go uncontested. Meanwhile, Zeri is going to see if she can get a play. The timing here is it's actually rather difficult for her to get some alone time. Thinks better of it. Not in full commit.
Usha will pull off of the situation. At the very least, they do find themselves 2 plates, so not the worst of situations for BYG, right?
That could have been much worse if they entertained that Herald fight, would be my opinion on that. So it does look like Leakai will be going for the Gore Drinker. He's had enough to try to win lane necessarily with the Eclipse. He can do so with the Gore Drinker in this matchup later on as well. So it's perfectly fine for him.
We'll scale in the 1v1. And under certain conditions, could contribute a lot to these team fights as well. We, so far, don't have quite the same enthusiasm, though, for this Aatrox because of what we have already seen in these past 2 games.
Yeah, Beyond Gaming are going to start this one, but they're not going to be able to finish before PSG has a say into this one. Unified looking across the wall, trying to find an angle into this one. Kino gets tagged up, ultimate goes through onto Wako. He has to burn the cleanse. Exhaust goes down. Husha and Wako.
They do get it.
Up the wall, and they're out. Really nicely done.
Very well executed coming in from the side of BYG, coming towards the back of the pit, which allows them to escape without putting the rest of BYG at risk, right? Because if Wako starts walking down towards the river, it could possibly put his support in danger. or even his mid laner. So I like the pathing coming in from Wako in that instance, and they make out with the second dragon, so that's really nice because, oh god, we've got a very spicy soul because it's Hextech. We've got the Hextech gates to work with.
Yeah, this one, I think it's a huge boon to PSG's composition. Like, if you can get behind the enemy comp with the comp that you have here, it's just so powerful. I think the Hextech gate definitely does favor composition that, you know, if they have a flank advantage, if they're more bruisery. Unified's going to get bullied out here a little bit because the support ain't there, but not much happening across that side. Of course, this also does mean that these fights, when the soul does go over, you're not going to be able to run away. Like, it's going to be full aces
it is game
on one
over.
side or the other.
Yeah, soul is just going to be game over for one of these teams. And you mentioned how, hey, if the side of PSG get these flanks, it's really, really nice because of how many bruisers they have. But it's also not bad for BYG because Sivir wants to fight front to back. So if you start getting flanks on her, she does become a little bit dizzy and can lose a lot of the effectiveness coming in from her ricochets as well, because she's not getting multi-man ricochets and very limited in her target direction.
Okay, we are getting into almost out of the laning phase at this point. Taking stock of the situation, PSG with the lead, but a fairly minor one. They do have good power spikes across the board here, and that mid lane tower is just a breath away from falling into ruins here. So, so much PSG could really do. You know, they could just group up mid, force the tower, transition very easily into the Drake. I still give them an outsized advantage coming into this next fight. Look at that front line. That's just that's such a manly front line. It's
we're also not getting the mandate build coming in from Gori, knowing that this game will most likely come down to 3rd and 4th dragon, get more power. So I actually like this decision because you do get a lot more damage with the build rather than the Imperial Mandate, which is much more oriented for earlier dragon fights.
It does give you that speed buff, but he's got the Sivir, so he's not concerned about this one. I like how many sort of compositions PSG has been able to throw out here. You know, this is the Bruiser comp. Kino just had to flash across the wall right there. Wako going to put some damage onto the back half of that one, but still a decided win for PSG as they wrestle over control of Vision here, and Minji just hasn't been able to get off the ground here. This is kind of the two sides of Minji. He's a great player when he gets his champions, but he also has a bit of a difficult laning phase until you get to his upside.
And the same goes for Lee Kai up in his top side. 3rd game of Aatrox, and the 3rd game of really suffering in the lane phase. See how well he does once he gets out of it into the team fight phase where he's able to start participating. Perhaps that changes his fortunes. Having a bunch of bruisers run into him, right? That always helps out at Aatrox. Possibly have that the shy moment.
I'm trying to think how Beyond Gaming can play these fights, and the only thing that's coming up is they need a kite. They need to stay as far away as possible from PSG in this one and slowly whittle them down. Use that ultra burst fire, just pedal them constantly. They can't take a full-on engage at all. Like, even if there's like a 3-man cycle into the front line, I think Ujai's nice. I don't even think the Gore Drinker is going to save Aatrox all that much. So it's going to be a while until Beyond Gaming can take a front-to-back team fight. And I'm really curious on how they're going to play this. At first, though, they are going to go for the Herald. Yes, you do get their pick of the litter when it comes to these objectives. Hextech Drake, one of the, I would say, the strongest Drake outright with the attack speed and the cooldown reduction.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just so much stats thrown into that, and the laser not quite enough there. hoping that Bury mishandles the smite in that instance, being all by himself, but not to happen. And now BYG turn their attention up to this top side. They will get this top tower. At the same time, it will get answered down in this bottom lane. It is Gory getting more solo gold into himself. He isn't able to finish off his tower, but he does get more and more minions into him. And the minion advantage is going to be key, because right now it is pretty sizable in that mid lane. Even in this top lane, we are going to see a more utility build from Hanabi this time around, going for the chainsword into what will most likely be the Sunfire Cape.
He's just a meatball in the front line. They're banking on that they can keep people
He's a stun
in place. And I think that bet is correct. I don't think Nautilus can get away from these fights. Neither can the Aatrox. The crowd control is immense on the side of PSG. And you even have things like the Vision of Empire that can strike people from very far away. So I like the build so far. And I'm a little bit worried about Ninja, you know, going for this Everfrost. He's already fairly low impact. He's very far beyond the curve. And that is not a damage item coming into his card. It's a catch item.
Yeah. It's going to be so hard for him to deal damage to these targets.
He did,
right? Because
300 damage.
Yep. Yeah, you have a Braum to deal with, Sejuani, most likely a very tanky Swain, and also now definitely a tank Hanabi is, unfortunately unable to donate the red buff to his AD carry, but secures it for himself. So at least they keep the gold home.
I'm looking across the board, and all PSG has to do late game is armor stack. it's so hard to chew through them. But with Ahri as your sole AP source here, it's yeah, that front line's not dying. That Renekton can build full tank and probably just do more damage with his ultimate running.
Yeah, definitely agree in that regard. So. For the side of BYG, they have to get real creative on how they approach these fights.
I don't think they can, of course, let the next streak go here. It's a little bit too important here.
Yeah, they're going to start missing their timing windows, especially for if they allow this next dragon to go into the hands of PSG for free, because then it's just way too much of an uphill battle. And perhaps even in a good situation, PSG able to 50-50 to Dragon, and they lose it. The extra stats coming in before the Dragon kicks in should be enough for them to just straight up win the fight and then turn their attention over the Baron. So you need to have some pick or vision priority around this Dragon with about 100 seconds left before it spawns.
So we're going to be taking a look at what viable targets there are for the side of PSG. They do have that Sejuani that can just throw that Glacial Prison onto someone and lock them down. And if I'm checking across these items, the carries so far look a bit safe. The support's got the stopwatch as well. But I think their front line has some big problems here. The Aatrox or the Wukong are going to find it hard to survive into this one. Beyond Gaming in the meantime, though, actually taking back the majority of the vision right here. But a strong buy coming out for PSG. 2 items completed here on Gory. I am looking at that Swain with dread as he charges towards his bottom side.
Yeah, this Swain has so much damage. If he's able to get into the fight because of the extra stopwatch, should be big problems moving forward. 20 minutes into the game, Clement, and we haven't seen the first blood, but surely it's about to happen.
The slowest game so far in the series, but it feels inevitable that PSG will just march in here with that front line. There is so much dang HP on these guys. It is mind-baffling. If you look at that front line between those 3 guys, I think you got 6,000 HP to chew through. We do have 2 items here now completed by Wako. does have that attack speed buff, and in go the catch, and they find a target before the rest of the squad does appear
Comes
here.
the return.
Looks like no, Gory's just going to charge
in there.
1-on-3, and everyone has to back out and give up their
They can
positioning.
reset the fight.
Yeah, Gory might be cut down here. The charm nearly lands. That would have killed him. And Beyond Gaming actually walked out, getting most of the ultimates and the flashes here.
Wako does have to burn the cleanse, but he still has his ultimate available, still charging up, as it will eventually time out, but I think they've done a good enough job that they're able to actually snatch away this dragon. They have to go and commit.
Ninja has the TP. Can he find the angle?
It's going to be a 50-50.
It's going to come in so late, though. Husha has to stay in the pit, but is he going to survive? He goes down before he can do anything, and the Drake goes over to PSG. They're on Hex Tech Soul Point already.
Ooh, okay. PSG, they managed to come back into the fight, secure themselves their third dragon, and for BYG, you could see the thought process and, hey, we created enough space to just commit to the dragon. Unfortunately, they weren't able to finish it, as Likai does bail out a situation before it gets any worse. Losing a dragon probably was the worst case scenario, though, as we'll see the fight. Gory comes in, uses the ghost, and BYG, they just say, okay, the Swain, they have overcommitted. As long as we reset the fight, we might have an opportunity to punish them. And they thought they had enough time. Unfortunately, wasn't actually able to get a close enough teleport. And because of Hanabi's teleport placement, it's the side of PSG that are able to actually get into the pit and smite the dragon.
I felt like Ninja teleported way too far away from that one. They're trying to catch out Gory here. The charm does land, but he is taking this one. He still has his Zanias there as well. Pops it in and is going to survive through all the damage. The rest of the members are coming in, but finally Gory falls down. Likai gets that reset on the World's Ender. He's going to charge forward. A good find for Beyond Gaming here. No shutdown gold, but they finally get the kill onto Gory. That was pretty massive for them because he's the most fed member there is.
Yeah, nice little pick coming in from BYG, being able to burn down the mid laner of PSG. For PSG, I'm surprised they don't try and turn that situation.
Baron's up, but too far away, I think.
Yeah. Hanabi wasn't in the area, and he didn't have the teleport. So I think that was probably the driving force of them not trying to turn that fight, because you look at the low health bars. Husha was very low. Minji was very low, and it was definitely an opportunity with the Sivir ultimate that you give chase, get those kills, and then threaten the Baron buff. Unfortunately, it doesn't come through, and BYG will be able to narrow the gold to 1,500. Still a PSG lead, but this game is neck and neck, and I'm not sure if, well, gold-wise, it's not enough to really put the game to bed.
Absolutely, it's still so early on in the game, but we are going to have a critical fight in the next 2 minutes, and honestly, with the triple Hex Tech Soul on the board here, I think if PSG hit that, they just take it.
Yeah,
it's so hard to play against that.
Ricochet with Hex Tech Soul is absurd.
It is. Oof.
Oh. Yep. So that will be definitely very problematic, especially when you also have to deal with Hanabi and Gory sitting on top of you, adding the additional slows. Typically, you see the Rylai's come out for a champion like the Swain to be able to stick on to targets. But if he has Hex Tech Soul, that won't be an issue. So we have to just constantly drain tank and apply those slows. And Burry also going for the Warmogs build, trying to be as much of a nuisance. And we talked about how low damage this composition from the side of BYG is. Warmogs also really is a thorn in their side in that regard too.
Yeah, there's no natural HP shred on the side of Beyond Gaming, so going through that piggy is going to take a long time for the side of Beyond. Looking forward, the Braum synergy with the Hex Tech Soul is just amazing there as well. So much attack speed going through. on all the members, makes those stuns easier. And we see now PSG already setting up for position, but Hanabi also has a lead in his own lane, so he's willing to push this one in. He's almost 50 CS ahead in the top side. Beyond Gaming have to play on multiple fronts, and Likai will not have his TP up in time. So they have to make the transition here, while Hanabi can sit pretty there and pick his spots. Also has the potential Hex Gates coming into play here, so there's a lot of different things that could happen. Okay, both sides are going to charge up. It's going to be a 10-man brawl for the potential Hex Tech soul for PSG. Let's see if Beyond Gaming can't deny. Beyond Gaming's old play was to try and stop someone.
Look at the CZ.
Oh man, that is a bad start to the fight for Beyond Gaming.
Yeah, if they are able to stall though, he will be able to get his teleport back up. But they're going to have to be super decisive here.
Bucha coming in from the back. He does have the opportunity to take the Hex Tech gates around the clock right here. Kino actually walking so close to danger. They're going to start out on Gory, but Gory's not afraid of anyone. He just walks
goes
forward,
wide.
and there's no damage being dealt onto him whatsoever. You have the scuttle now
they
coming
actually reset
up.
it.
Can they actually get this fight?
Oh,
Wako
they got
actually
it!
finds it! They deny the soul from going over. Wako finds one
That's a
kill
triple.
onto the side already, but Hanabi
Double.
is clearing in onto him. He's trying to find that stun. Wako flashes over, but can he get away from this one? Yes, he might have lost the chance to get the soul, but they are coming away with the fight. Only one dead on the side of PSG.
It's going to be the dragon denied, but now PSG, they can just turn their attention over to the Baron buff. And this should be easy pickings. Wako, though, at the very least, does get onto free items with PSG. They are more than willing to trade that dragon, get those kills instead, and now have the man advantage, or the player advantage, to get themselves this Baron buff. That propels them to almost a 6k gold lead, and hopefully we'll see them be able to execute a little bit better to just straight up finish this game. As we can see here, this is the problem with the BYG composition, is you'd love to generate picks with that hook from the Nautilus, but there's no target to really hook. Fortunately for them, they do sort of reset the situation and wait for the Swain ultimate to time out, but there's just not enough damage at this point in the game for them.
Yeah, afterwards I really felt like Likai needed to stop chasing Yubani and just try to get away after that one. Wako was fine by himself, but the rest of the team overcommitted. That was actually kind of a nifty move from Minji there. He actually charmed the Drake for the surprise damage, and Wako was able to steal that one away. That was 200 IQ, but PSG still in massive lead.
Yeah, throwing down all their damage, all their cooldowns onto that dragon to be able to secure the steal does mean they didn't have those cooldowns to then try and win a fight. So it was definitely a bit of a catch-22.
The Rylai's also done for Gory. Wow.
Oh, Wako able to sidestep. Big cooldown now
Everything.
burned, and look at the bot lane. They are still pushing.
Minji gets tagged up here, and they go straight for him. Pops
could
it
just be
into
game.
Stasis. Yeah, they're going all in. Kino can't run away from this one. PSG just going to close in on the targets. Wako still trying to deal damage, but he has so much that he has to walk across right here. And PSG going to walk straight into the base. That's going to be double inhibitors down. Wako coming in. See if he can save this one. Gonna look for some targets on the side here. Getting some slows down, but the Ultra Shock laser goes wide. Wako still trying to find some purchase. No.
That once more doesn't land. That will be PSG walking out of the base after cracking 2 inhibs. Very well done coming in from their end. And does look like it will be a reset. Of course, 2 minutes until this next dragon comes online. And for the side of PSG, they have so many options available to them, right? They don't need to go for the dragon. They can go for the fight. They can go for the base. It's really up to them on how they want to play out the situation, because for the side of BYG, they have to go for the fights.
Oh, Kino might be in the
out.
wrong place right here. Hooks away. Very close to just getting chunked down in that situation. I think the mid lane difference is just gaping in this game. You know, we have very little damage coming out. Wako doing a great job at dodging out these ultimates from Murray, but it's the best he can do at this point. Kino is going to get targeted. Oh, he does manage to survive the lightning crash. Does force everyone away. Minji goes forward, but can't find the charm just yet. He still has one more charge. But going forward is a risky proposition. He still goes for it, but doesn't find the target just yet. Goria is going to pop into his ultimate.
Do it.
Goria's actually going to lose his ultimate right before
he has
the
3
dragon.
items.
Oh, he's doing so much damage. Is this the Wako
He's
moment?
isolated.
Is
They're
this the
isolated.
time?
Oh,
the
but on the flip
backside of the fight is not going so hot for Beyond Gaming there. They lose 2 members there. Wako doesn't have to sustain. Unified can walk forward. Ooh, still fine here. Wako needs to get away from this one, but Unified is going to clean house on Likai. Stasis, but he's got nowhere to go.
And with the super starting to come in, it looks like PSG could just end with the extra super minion push.
Curry going in onto Minji. Minji barely going to survive that one. But in comes the TP. Goro looking for blood. But in comes Wako. Wako's been so valiant in these team fights. He's been holding this entire team together on his back.
And now it's Hextech Soul.
Yeah, there's so much distance. PSG should be able to simply walk into this one. Too much ground to cover.
It's going to be free. Yeah, and for the side of BYG, they don't have any way to answer back, right? Because they have super minions streaming into the base. And this is why PSG, this position, even if they did screw up down in that bot lane push, they have options to fall back to. They don't need to win the team fight. They can just fall back towards this Hextech Soul. Perhaps BYG come out to contest the Hextech Soul. Then you threaten just ending the game straight up as we get to see the replay. Wako has been doing everything possible to try and keep them in this game. And Kino, this is the issue with the Nautilus into that composition, is that the moment you try and go in, there's no way you get to go in. And then the chase comes in because it's an Everfrost Ahri. There's just no power to actually kill these beefy targets. Now, we have super minions streaming into the base, and it looks like PSG are looking to just straight up end the game. We're stuck in replay, but the game could just come to an end.
Yeah, I think we really should be switching back to the big screen right now because the fight is about to come through. Here we go. Charm misses from Minji, goes a little bit wide, and the damage is incoming. Minji gets targeted out, has to dash backwards, and there goes Kino. Nothing to stop the march from PSG. Hanabi goes forward. He's in the middle of everyone.
He's gone.
Just tanky. And yeah, that is going to be Silver Straight. Triple kill on the end for PSG. And they are going to take it all the way to Game 5. I felt like this was just a drafted from Beyond Gaming, if I'm being completely honest. Like, they went in with an early game identity, but they didn't have any winning lane. Not a single lane was able to come out ahead, and it was a very, very slow march until death.
Man, this is a really difficult one to really fathom here, because the drop possibilities were there. If we drop the Zeri, maybe we go for an Aphelios, right? The Aphelios would have a little bit more oomph in the mid game to possibly win out some of these fights, to cut through some of these meatballs, or perhaps we just go for the Fiora, knowing that they have, again, no answer up in the top lane. They aren't going to play top heavy. That's the other thing. PSG, they're not going to send a ton of top lane pressure. It's really all just focused bot side. So I just feel like there's weaknesses starting to show coming in from both teams, right? We don't see the Draven come out, which would be a clear answer in this situation. Instead, they fall back towards the Zeri, and there's just not enough momentum in the early game to really say, hey, this composition can carry over the line, can find those plays to maybe snowball into a Baron. No, it just wasn't there within the draft and also within the item builds and the play inside the game.
Yeah, there were so many, I think, holes in some of the champion pools there. I feel like if for the support pick as well, I felt like Lulu would have been a better answer because you need some extra HP in the front line. You need some extra damage coming in from your back. So I would have gone with Lulu right there. I felt like Nautilus was way too optimistic. We never saw a clear engage coming in here. It was always you need a secondary initiation. After you first engage, you force out the ultimate from Gory, and then you back out, and then you go in again. That is probably the most convoluted game plan that you could possibly have. As Minji's lane did not work very well against the Swain, so it's interesting to see what they can do now because it looks like it looks like to me that whatever Minji does, he needs to get a champion where the laning phase just isn't important. You have to assume that Minji is going to lose his lane. Like I think that's kind of a given looking at this series.
That's definitely tough to stomach because the Ahri Swain.
That's how Beyond Gaming played the entire split. I just want to remind everyone of that.
The Ahri Swain matchup is very much a skill matchup in the lane phase, and you shouldn't fall this far behind as well. Like in the team fights, it's going to be difficult, but in the lane phase, it's just sidestepping the Death's Grasp, and he just got hit by pretty much every single one.
Yeah, we saw two unanswered teleports on the side of Minji early on in the lane phase, so it was really rough time for him coming into this one. And there's a lot of things I think that need to change. The Aatrox party is a little bit weird, but I want to congratulate PSG. This is so smart on figuring out Beyond Gaming, honestly. Like, they like to play flank, they like to play in from different angles, so you just group yourselves up, become this big, unpenetratable ball of death, and you watch Beyond Gaming just like pick at you helplessly. They're barely making a dent. They're not scratching the paint at all, and they just deathball roll them.
Yeah, it definitely seems like one of those Indiana Jones scenes, right, where you have the giant boulder rolling down at you, and all you can do is run away because you have no answers, and that's exactly what BYG trying to play into. The Zeri was their only answer, and it was just
this is so hard to play. Them. They need to take Gory's ultimate off and then go back for the re-engage. Like, boy.
They don't have a secondary engage. That was the big issue.
I think they really got outplayed by the Swain draft. That was way too well done there. I think instead of going for the Nautilus, they need to give themselves an ult in the Lulu, play further back, play a kiting game afterwards. Like, thing is, you're running into a Swain is always going to be a terrible time. Running into a Braum as well. The fights were really close, but not enough.
Yeah, Wako played his heart out in this game. He was playing on the knife's edge, trying to lay out as much damage as possible. But again, you're playing with a Nautilus. You don't have an enchanter to put you over the top, right? If this was Lulu, if this was Yuumi, he can have these 1v9 moments where he can over-aggress because he has the additional safety coming in from a Lulu ultimate, from a Lulu shield, or the Yuumi ultimate to create space for him and become a 1v9 monster. Here, he was a monster, but not really a terror that PSG were really worried about.
Yeah, he got to the late game, but I don't even think he managed to finish the LDR at the end. So punching through the front was going to be very hard. And congratulations. I think this is the most important thing about playoffs is you have to be able to play different systems of games. Like, you have to play the bruiser comp, you have to play front to back, you have to be able to stand up 1-3-1s, you have to have an answer to all of that, you have to know the meta inside and out. And so far, it does look like PSG have a little bit more figured out. We're going to go into the post-game here. Pretty smooth sailing from start to finish from PSG. Once the death ball got rolling, that was it. Very inconsequential from Beyond Gaming. From their entire top side. I don't think their top side could do anything, and they sure as hell couldn't tank for Wako either.
Yep. They weren't really useful in creating space for Wako, and they weren't really useful in getting into the back line of PSG. So catch-22 all around going into next game. We have to move away from this Aatrox pick, surely. And it'll be interesting to see if they end up prioritizing Ahri again in this next draft. I assume they will stay on blue side, but the change has to also come in the item build. A Everfrost is not going to cut it because you are the sole magic damage dealer. And if you don't go for the Liandry's, you're never going to be able to eat through these champions.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Build was a little bit weird. I feel like Beyond Gaming, they're so confident of their abilities sometimes it actually makes their games much harder to play. And MVP again goes to Gory twice in a row. When PSG need him to stand up, when they need him to keep their dreams alive, Gory is there for them. This time with 28% of the team's damage on this swing, smashing his lane, kill participation through the roof. What more can you say about it?
They say the G in PSG stands for Gory, and that's exactly what's happening so far. As he has repeatedly dominated the MVP votes during the regular season. It's repeated itself in the playoffs, and one of the things we highlighted when it comes to attacking PSG is if you're able to limit Gory's impact, that changes the scope of how PSG operate in these team fights. In games 3 and 4, it just didn't happen.
It's been a while since we hit Silver Scrapes, but we're joining the rest of the regions and going to game 5s. Don't go anywhere, listen to the music, and be prepared to find out who gets to go to Worlds.